What are you reading, Louise?
Well, I'm reading the newspaper and I'm a little disheartened by the things that I'm seeing, you know? I don't know what the answer is for Christians who are trying to be faithful when it comes to the great race issues that we're having in our country.
I don't think there are any simple answers.
Well, there's got to be. I know we've talked before about, there's a lot we can do after we pray. So I know that prayer is a great start, but how do we teach our friends and as a kindergarten teacher, what do I teach my students?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do I help them see that, you know, physical violence is not the issue, is not the answer.
Yeah. Well, and we've got to remember that racism is taught.
Yeah.
We're not born racist, but we are taught to be racist by wherever we find ourselves in society. I find myself in the position of a white male, so I'm in a position of privilege. And so I really struggle with what can I do, what can I say as someone in a position of privilege that is not being just a white do-gooder, but is really trying to be at one with humanity and call all people my brothers and sisters.
Well, I think we've got to think about how we treat each person and realizing that each person on this planet, every single one of us, is a child of God.
Mm.
And every single one of us has value and are important.
Mm. Mm.
And, we know good people in just about every camp involved. And I guess we have to look to the example that Christ gave us in how he lived his life.
Mm. Mm. Which was spent most of the time with people who were on the outside and on the edges, and not the people of privilege, not the people.
Yeah. People that society looked down on.
Right.
So, but he helped us see that, again, everybody has a value.
Right.
So, I was looking in the Sermon on the Mount, which my dad loves the Sermon on the Mount. And he always goes back to that. And one of the things that we find that everybody knows from the Sermon on the Mount is the Golden Rule. And I think when it comes down to how we treat people, we have to remember the Golden Rule. And from the book of Matthew, it says, "In everything do to others as you would have them do to you. For this is the law and the prophets."
Wow. And that kind of sums it up.
I think so.
Today I happened to be reading Thomas Merton, who was a famous monk and writer, and he lived in Kentucky, and he talks about going walking in downtown Louisville, and this is what he said. He said, "Yesterday in Louisville at the corner of 4th and Walnut Streets, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization that I loved all these people, that they were mine and I theirs, that we could not be alien to one another even though we were total strangers. It was like waking from a dream of separateness. I have the immense joy of being human, a member of the human race in which God became incarnate. If only everybody could realize this, but it cannot be explained. There's no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun." And Merton spends the rest of his life with compassion for the victims of prejudice. And he writes about the connections between love and suffering, and he works for justice. If we could all see every person around us as someone that Christ came and lived and died and rose for, I think it would make a real difference in how we treated them.
I think that's a good example to follow